Hey, Chris Eischen here. This is the Modern Dad Council, and I have with me right now Eric Lehman. And right now we're just kind of chatting, and I wanted to just record so that we're going to talk about goals, but before we do, we were kind of talking about this weekend and just some things that we had gone through and that we've been doing and just kind of catching up. I thought it'd be kind of fun to do that more live on air. Then kind of be like, have this great connection time with you, Eric, and then to break off to do the show. I don't know. I wanted to kind of share this personal bit with those that want to see it. What do you think?
I'm inspired by that, and I think it's I don't know if I've shared this with you directly, but with the passing of Wayne Dyer and just some of the visions that I saw, like when I went to see him, what I really saw was like the platform coming down, and what I actually heard an audio in my head and heart, when I saw him on that stage, and I was just like, whoa, like I actually saw the stage just, come down so that we could all be on the same page. And so what I mean by that is, like, I love the idea of just being in stream of consciousness and holding space for anyone to join us or to take part in that. So I feel like, yeah, I mean, this is juicy, like we're I want to be more transparent with the world. So I mean, it's just, our connection it's so amazing, and it's so like cool to just say how much we care about each other and to like admit that we haven't met each other in person yet. And it's just, I think it's becoming more and more, I don't want to say commonplace, but to have relationships that are virtual and real.
But you know what? I feel like just because we're in this virtual world, we feel like it's becoming more commonplace. Just because more people that we associate with work like this, right? But outside out there in that world, I don't think very many people have the type of connection that we're having.
Right.
And maybe that's the distinction, is that, people are using technology, but I don't know if they're using it to connect quite in the way that we are. Does that make sense?
I think it's just good evidence because, like, there are a lot of people who say, like, oh, this generation's, kind of not connected because of technology, and they're always looking down at a device rather than looking into somebody's eyes. But here we are basically looking into each other's eyes, but we've just never met in person, never had the hug that has been long overdue.
Eric, so, I want to stare into my camera. Just intently, right?
Oh, wow.
But there is an exercise with that, and staring into somebody's eye. And although, yes, it is a camera that I'm staring at right now, which you can tell I'm staring at the camera, right?
Sure.
Yeah, so that feels like I'm looking at you directly. But there is something with that, and as humans, we tend to like want to look away. Like we have a hard time making that eye to eye, like true connection.
Right.
So I try to do that whenever I can. Talking about goals, like that's one of my goals is like when I'm in public, I want to try to connect with people in a real way. Even though it's just a casual way, like a normal, like, hey, how's it going? Have a good day kind of a thing. I still try to take that moment and connect.
Right. Sure.
Like, to me, that is that little bit extra that other people don't typically do. Like, yeah, have a good day.
Right.
Like, looking away. And so, I don't know, that's kind of similar to the idea, the kind of the talk that I wanted to talk about today now that I think about it. Because if you think about, you are the change that you want to, be the change, right? That you want in society. And it's like, I want a more connected society. I want to not have to worry about terrorism and violence and all of that stuff, because I know my neighbor, and I know, the people from the school, people in my neighborhood, people involved in certain different activities that I'm involved in. And I'm not saying you have to know the entire city that you're in, and but you have your groups, and getting involved and being out there and being part of community is one of my big goals. I want to help create better community. So, that's, how do I do that? That's a cool goal to have, but the steps to creating that as a reality are kind of, I think, lost to some people. And I think that's an important thing to talk about today. And so, I can kind of share some of the things that I've gone through, but do you want to kind of start off? I feel like I've been talking for a long time.
I mean, and I think it's good, when you're charged about something, kind of much like I do with every single topic, it seems like, the words are changing, the meanings of the words are changing, what you just said sounds to me more like an aspiration, or, because it's not when people think of goals, they think of these things called SMART goals, kind of measurable and realistic and time-based and blah blah blah, and what I hear about you is you want to be community wherever you go. You want people to know that you are about community and you are a community builder. So I guess the difference is, when I think of goals versus aspirations, I think, I want to build a playground. That's a goal. I want to build a community playground. That's a goal. An aspiration is, I want to be a community organizer the rest of my life. The difference between I want to write a book versus I want to be an author. So I mean, and a lot of that is sort of like that framework in my head is from a friend of mine's book called Goal Free Living. So I feel like, the last time I really had a goal, other than being in this Indiegogo campaign that has some financial, goal or milepost or whatever, was when I ran a marathon. I wanted to run a marathon. And then at some point I transitioned from the goal of the marathon to I just want to be a runner. I want running to be a huge part of my life. And now I've let it all go, having run 3 marathons and become a runner. And then all of a sudden, so
what, now you don't run?
I don't run as much, and I don't run, there's no have to run anymore in my gut. It's just I miss it, but I don't miss it enough to have it be a have to. And I guess what I'm saying is I became addicted to it a while ago. To the point where I was not in a good mood if I didn't get my run in, So I mean, and I guess that's the thing, is can there be good addictions? Is it good to be addicted to running? Or does that get to be, checked as well? Just because it's considered a healthy thing to do, when you find yourself going through sort of withdrawal symptoms because you don't get your good run in. I mean, I'm checking my current addiction with tea. I traded in, coffee for tea, and sugar for honey. But now if 7:30 or 8 a.m. rolls around and I haven't had my first cup, I have a headache, and so that's a challenge, So I mean, I know that this is a little bit off, topic around goals, but it's just I aspire to be a healthier person, And so one of the aspects or the goals that I have around that is, you know, implementing healthy practices that are measurable and that I can be held accountable to. So, you know, now that I've got a great partner in my life, you know, I can say, hey, let's eat healthier this week. And then we can say, well, what does healthier look like? And does that mean, you know, make sure we have one green leafy vegetable with every big meal? Or does it mean that we go out for a walk or a run after, you know, a meal? So like, I mean, I think, you know, I mean, and I guess just to like bring it full circle, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I'm hearing you talking about like measurable or like realistic and measurable goals, like over shoot for the moon type of goal. And or I guess maybe not, maybe it's less than that, because I'm thinking about the running, right? Like you reached your goal and you accomplished and you said, okay, well, I'm going to take the goal that I had and I'm going to extend it into being a runner now, not just completing this marathon. But then once you did that, you were like, okay, I'm finding that my goal has, or this running thing has consumed too much of me in my time. And so you're like, all right, now what am I looking to get? What is my overall goal? And maybe running played too big of a part. And so now you turn that down a little bit and allow room or space, you know, for something else to come up.
Well, I mean, so, I think, yeah, I mean, and also for me, I just feel like I'm somewhat extreme, you know, in some different things. So like, you know, when I dive into something, I dive in, you know. So, you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I'm the same way. I'll dive in and then it's like I end up dove into 4 things and I'm like, I do that a lot. Did I freeze up?
No. So, you know, I mean, it's just, I think that the interesting thing is like the push pull that I have with like, you know, what, like as soon as you said the word like shoot for the moon, you know, I was just like, oh yeah, like that's who I want to be, like, you know, and how am I being that and helping my kids, you know, want to be that too, you know what I mean? So does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess for me, I get oftentimes like I'll have a goal, like let's say with Think Charger, okay, where it's like I've got to reach this goal with work. So what I end up happening now, my like life goal, my big goal is to be more present and be more involved with my kids and all of those things, right? Like that's the type of life that I want to lead above all else. And the job that I have really allows that. However, oftentimes I'll have this goal set and it'll cause me to just give it so much of my, I mean, it doesn't cause me, I make the choice, right? But I get so wrapped up into it and I get so drawn in and I'll find myself completely disconnected from what's going on in this house for like days. And even sometimes, you know, doing things like this, like helping other dads get their stuff launched or something like that. And I'm setting up meetings and things like that. I get so caught up in my own passions that I often forget about my overall goal being to be present and with my kids. And that's where this weekend, I just felt this like need to just shut it all down and put it away. And although it does that hurt, yeah, it hurts because I have a ton of stuff I got to do. And it's like, but I've been really just busy. I've been so busy. I haven't been that live in the moment with my kids and just be there with them. And so that's all day yesterday. We were just together, you know, and it's like, I know we can't realistically, I can't do that. I mean, I could try to do that every day, you know, but you get caught up, you get busy, you get drawn into the things that you're really passionate about and you'll lose focus on your, maybe a bigger overall goal. like I do with my kids sometimes, but not get hard on yourself, just kind of refocus.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, and I think the other thing is like, can you be anything more than fully present? You know what I mean? And I mean, so like when I think about the topic of goals, like that's it right there. Like, I just know that if I can get fully present in every moment I'm in and, get the distracting voices out of my head, and just really be in, like, all into every moment, that's really my only goal, and then to have the faith that the right thing will be said, the right thing will be done, the right, right action or inaction will take place,
Mhm.
And I feel like the we can have all these great goals that we write down for ourselves, like Bob Proctor or all these other gurus want us to write down, and then then we can say, oh, and then real life happened. So other than the goal of being fully present, what like, I guess it's almost like a cop out, but almost not, so like, if that's my only goal for any given moment, it allows anything that shows up to be perfect, and without value judgment, oh, this was a good thing, no, this is a bad thing. No, like, this is what was, and I was fully present in it, um, but I guess then the question is, like, the only goal I'm measuring myself against for any given moment is how present was I. So
Yeah.
in a way, that's sort of measurable in the ethereal, kind of spiritual space. Like, how many voices were my own? How many, whatever. I mean, I guess you could measure it. So I mean, I don't know. Like, I feel like because the first 40 years of my life were so goal driven, I feel like I've taken these 2 years to just ease up on that, and just even the third marathon I ran in Honolulu, my goal, knowing that I had already run the same marathon the year before, my goal was to take in more beauty. So, like, just to make sure that my eyes fully grasped, like, the glory and the beauty that was as much a part of that race as the 26.2 miles, which I had already completed the year before. So it's not like I'm going to win. I don't I don't run 26 miles. I mean, I don't run 40 miles just so I can run 26 really fast. I run 20 so that I know that I can get to 26.2. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I mean, I guess but that's the last time I remember having this, like, real, like, gotta hit this goal. Like, the finish line is 26.2. Like, you can't call yourself a finisher of the Honolulu Marathon unless you cross 26.2.
And while I'm doing it, I'm gonna look around and look at how gorgeous this planet is.
Right. And just, understand that how much an honor it was to be able to have that opportunity to run those specific 26.2.
Yep.
And so, like, I feel like I'll probably run that one again, and I'll probably want to have a deeper conversation, or 15 miles, with someone. And that could be a fun kind of goal to live into. I mean, I remember the first time I ran the Honolulu Marathon, I wanted to just make sure I had a running partner. And, like, that was the only vision I went into it with. Like, it was, I don't know, 20,000 strangers. And I'm like, how's this going to work? So I just set the intention out to the universe, and I said, I want to run with someone, and just as soon as I said that, I went to the pre-marathon luau. That was the night before, and the first English-speaking person, I met and had a conversation with, as there was this freak rainstorm, was a person who ran at the same pace or similar pace as I ran. So we just agreed to meet up the following morning at like 4 a.m. right before the race, started at 5. So, it's just, I think that's the cool thing about goals, like when you're specific, which is the S in SMART is specific. I don't know what the A is. I forgot what the A is, but specific, measurable, I guess achievable. I don't know. Anyway.
I can't think of it. I'm horrible at that kind of stuff.
Right. So I guess R is realistic and T is time-based. So anyway, like I do think that there's a power in sharing your goals with the universe. And because I was thinking about this a lot over the weekend, because I had a similar energy as you did. Like I shut down a lot, even though there was some energy that was saying, oh, well, like you're in the middle of a campaign, you're in this, you're in that, you've got a lot of creative juices flowing. But then, then I wouldn't be as present as I was able to be, celebrating my partner's birthday. And that was important. And, so, I mean, it's just, present is a very interesting goal orientation. I don't know. Like, do you have any practices that you use to get present?
Yeah. First off, I like to meditate beforehand because that helps me to clear my head of all any other gunk, So this is what tends to happen if I don't meditate and I'm hanging out with the kids. I'm thinking about, oh, I wonder what's going on with this and that and the other, and then I'm detached and I'm like, wait, what were you saying? That kind of thing. So I like to meditate, and for me, meditation isn't like an hour in a room, like, I don't do anything like that. I just need to like sit quiet. And I like to be in darkness, or I close my eyes and just sit for 5 minutes and just let everything kind of clear my thoughts, all these worries and concerns I have, let them just flush away. But I need to do that just because I don't know. I thrive under stress when it comes to work.
Say more about that. What does that mean?
Like when I have 1,000,001 things to do, I am on my game, and I'm like, and I stay focused, and I get a crap ton of stuff done. But I just get sucked in, and I could work like that for 20 hours straight, take a nap, get up, and just be 100% focused. But I get drawn in to the point where I lose sight of everything else. And so it's hard for me, or it's a challenge for me. It's an opportunity for me.
Well, I mean, I like what you're doing there. Like, I mean, just like shifting your language in the moment,
right?
Because I think that's as much a part of being present, as anything else. Is just like knowing, like, borrowing from last week's episode is like it's a choice. Once we stop, breathe, and notice, and then we get to create. And so, stopping and noticing gets to change the word hard to challenge or opportunity. And I feel like that's a beautiful pathway towards full presence, presence where you're back to choice, where you realize that, and I think maybe that's one of the definitions of being present, comes to mind is like, I am, when I'm most present, I am fully at choice. Like I know that I can just be in this moment without any of the baggage from the history or the future, the past or the future, taking its toll on this moment. So then I can choose what energy I want to bring to it. I want to choose, like what emotions are available. You know what I mean? Like, and then just know that like, oh wow, there's anger here. Notice
Right.
here. Whoo! Wow.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, you're right on, and that's just it. Like what I just went through and I love that you pointed that out. I was correcting myself in the language that I want to use, and so it's like, wait a minute, what am I putting out there for the universe to create? What am I creating for myself? This isn't a challenge. This isn't I'm lucky first off, I'm lucky to be breathing. Well, okay, that's great. But now what's the next step? Well, now I'm fortunate to even have the opportunity to have this struggle to begin with. So it's like, okay, so it's just even right there in that moment, I took a moment to be grateful and present and everything else, like you pointed out. So thanks for pointing that out. And that's my goal.
Right. And I think that's how we get to be a resource, because, instead of giving a top 10 list of how to be a great dad, which there's a gazillion ways to be a great dad, right?
Mm-hmm.
But maybe we could help people and share, what our process of getting present looks like, so that people who relate to, first leaping out with language that says, oh, that sucks, like how do we go from this sucks to I'm grateful for it, and then, I'm present in it and totally ecstatic that I'm here, so, you know what I mean? Like, and I feel like that's where we can be of tremendous service.
I think you just came up with a book title, and it's the one thing that you need as a parent to be a successful parent. Presence. And right. And it's presence. Well, to be present, there's a whole laundry list of things that need to be done, but it's just that one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what how to create world peace. One word: presence.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much that brings, being present brings, mm-hmm. that it's too simple. Right?
Well, I mean, it's simple but not simpler, you know what I mean? So like, I feel like you're right. Volumes, like back in the day of encyclopedias, volumes can be written on, the Dalai Lama's practice of getting present, Mahatma Gandhi's practice, Chris Eishen's practice of becoming present, and there's just going to be a way that works for, some and not for others. And, maybe the type A personality has a different pathway to getting present, I mean, for many people I know, like they need to write a list in order to cross something off the list. And I don't, maybe I should, but I don't accept shoulds very readily.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, I just feel like, but like if, the more I think about it, my goal setting is to get present, and I feel like, especially in new delicious relationships, there's an opportunity there. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
You want to extrapolate and you want to say, oh, I could be in this the rest of my life, and then my default setting kind of kicks into gear and says, oh wait, wow, whoa, my wheels are turning, like get present, like how do we make this now moment feel like forever. You know.
Yeah, instead of
So,
worrying about what's next
right.
or what just happened, just be here.
Right. And I think that's the other thing is like, you know, when being present is your agreed upon goal orientation, then the sky's the limit. You
Well,
know what I
because
mean?
we often get caught up in the past too. I think,
Right.
you know, that's another thing that can really hold us back from being present is, you know, oh, that person did this. Well, it's gone, done, and over with. Get over it. Move on. You know, be here now.
Mm-hmm.
And not worrying about in the future how you're going to get them back and all the, you know, you get all wrapped up in all kinds of stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
sorry, you just hit on that, and I just
No, I love that. And
interrupted
I feel like that's the other thing is like when we were talking earlier, is just like, you know, we can write down our goals until we're blue in the face. But if we don't confirm them in a shared process, then it's just a piece of paper, you know?
you. Right.
So like, you know, and unless we're all like, you know, you were basically saying you can be in worker bee mode for 20 hours straight. Um, and that would be fine by you, but there'd be a consequence for that, you know. You would be less present somewhere else because, you know, so present is there are degrees of presence, you know, like so, you know, just because you're present at the video arcade, you know, doesn't mean that that's where you're supposed to be, you know.
Yep.
So, you know, but getting present at the video arcade and, you know, is the first step, you know, to figuring out where your energy could be better used. So, so I don't know. I mean, like, I think that's the whole point of like, you know, even though the goal and maybe the aspiration is to be present as much as possible, but maybe there could be a whole bunch of goals, you know, as part of what it means to getting present, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, it does. But I want to back up for a second with what you were talking about with the whole arcade thing, right? So, like, if you're not supposed to be at, or it's not that you're not supposed to be at the arcade, but let's say you're at the arcade, but you have this goal that you envision your life being like this.
Mm-hmm.
If you're at the arcade, is that the best way for you to spend your time to be accomplishing this aspiration or goal that you have for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And it's that being present part is in that moment saying, wow, I'm at the arcade right now, or, you know, whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's going out to the bar or, you know, I know that was a thing for my ex-wife. She loved going out to the bar, and I'm like, we have kids at home. We can't go out to have the bar life anymore. And but the reason that was is because that didn't equal what we needed to be doing to have what we wanted in our lives, right? So we weren't, if you're at the arcade when there are other things that you should be doing in order to be going towards your goal, then it's being present and checking in with yourself and saying, hey, wait a minute, is that really came up for me, and I just wanted to dovetail that into what you're saying there. So
well, I mean, and I think that's the thing is like, you know, I feel like that's why this is such a great and open conversation. Like, so maybe just being present isn't enough because, you know, like if you don't have being present couched in a set of aspirations, then you can get lost being present at places that don't contribute to you becoming the you want to be, you know. And you know, it's, I think the pathway process is different for everyone, and you know that's why it's so great to be in partnership, because, you know, so great and so challenging in a beautiful way to expose your blind spots to someone else, you know. And how do you give that feedback? How do you say, you know, wait, we've got this shared goal of being this this kind of parent? And does this kind of parent go to the bar every other night? Perhaps not. And how do you come back together on parenting, and how are you gentle with each other along the way, because we're human and we're flawed and beautifully flawed, and without someone to point out our blind spots lovingly, and I think that's the key word, because I've been in other dynamics where I was just like, yeah, tell me about my blind spots, but don't beat me over the head with them.
Right. Like throwing your mistakes back in your face over and over again. Like, sure. I've been there, man. It hurt. Stop. Why are you putting salt on my wounds?
Yeah. And I think that's the other thing, is that like I've known that I've been my hardest critic, for 42 years. It may not, as flawed as I am, it may not look that way because I'm still making mistakes 42 years in. But I'm trying to pride myself in making different and new mistakes.
Right.
And pride's a very interesting word choice. Like I'm trying to, in a less ego-laden way, make new and unique mistakes. And it's funny that we talk about mistakes in a way, because like one of the things I'm diving into in the Game Changer realm is I'm doing this like virtual living room where we talk about different things just like this, and I want to talk about the beauty of making mistakes in a virtual realm, like the beauty of failing, and how like video games actually help us get better at being more gentle with ourselves when we make mistakes. So
it's practice without having a real person to
a huge consequence, right? Like you can die 80 times, in Grand Theft Auto. Not that I want people playing Grand Theft Auto, but there's like the idea of getting respawned, people know for the most part isn't going to happen in real life, until technology catches up with that concept. But right now, being respawned is available only in the virtual realm. And so might as well, dive into that process, and take the risks, learn good risk-taking behavior, and like the whole shoot for the moon kind of opportunities, rather than like, you don't need SMART goals in the virtual realm. You can shoot for the moon, and that's fine,
Well, the virtual realm has opened up a lot of opportunity. Like we kind of were talking about it to start off of the show, I guess, bringing the whole show full circle.
Sure.
Just makes me chuckle about my Kick-Ass Dad show I had was the full circle, because that's what I try to do, is bring it all full circle, and this just did it so organically. I was just having a inner chuckle over
flashback moment.
Yeah, like, oh my god, that's so funny.
So like what you would do is you would start out with a topic in the beginning and then bring it back at the end, or
yeah. So just kind of like we were just now, though, the start of the show would be focused on, I don't know, like what was this show's example? What we were just talking, we were just sitting around chit-chatting, right? And that was like, I wanted to record us just chatting, and before we got into a topic,
right?
And it just so happened that that topic ended up getting back to just sitting around, let's just chit-chat,
right,
and be present and being in the moment as part of the goal. It's like, how'd that happen?
Well, I mean, I think that's the beautiful part of intentionality, so like, I mean, maybe for me a better word than goal is intentions, so intention setting, so like I'm all about that. Like I get, like, as soon as I said that word, I got like this fiery energy inside me. I was like, oh yeah, let's go for a round of intention setting, like goal things are sold last year, or, but
So-
intention, yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna have a problem with making some intention. So
Right.
that's just, and that could be a trigger for you too, right? Like a label.
Mm-hmm.
You say goal and you come to a stop, but you say intention, you light up.
Right.
So maybe as part of your goal, what are those things that show up for you or would light up for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a shame Jay wasn't on, because this is totally right up his alley with it, intention and finding out what it is that lights up for you when you find your greatness. That's part of his greatness zone
Right.
equation. So,
I mean, I think that's the whole point, though, is like, for me, like getting ego out of the mix, I mean, like there was a certain part of me that like wanted to be identified as a runner and more specifically as a marathoner. And then, I was just like, wait, no, like, that's just an identity that I can get attached to, so like, and I know that my greatness is beyond that of just a runner, like, so, and like even movement maker isn't the word that makes my greatness show, but like, then when you start using words like intention setter, oh yeah, like that I want to be,
ding 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 ding.
Yeah, and that's where ego goes away, and like your soul's preferences show up. Like there's always been this ego component with the word goal for me, but intention, yeah, like it's got flowy energy for me,
Right.
So yeah, and I mean, like it's funny because like I see Jay's like smirk, because like whenever I see a word on the whiteboard, like I like there's just part of me that needs to find the word that fits me,
Right.
And that lights up, and I know it's a word that's close, but it's never usually the word that was written there in the first place. So, and that's great, and I feel like that's the whole point of a show like this, is that it's all about perspective taking, and my process for getting present might resonate with some people who take this in, and your process for getting present might resonate, and there's it's just about being a resource and being of service and saying, like, if being present is everyone's like global aspiration, what works for you to get there? And like, here are a few ideas, and what are yours? So I love the flow of how you and I can just relate and find words and scenarios that work for our own persons, and hoping to remove ego from that as much as possible. And admittedly, like ever since Wayne Dyer passed away, like the word ego, what he says is edge got out, like EGO is edge got out, and so like whenever I see my ego showing up, it's a place where I'm not letting God in, and I'm like, whatever your faith, whatever your religion, like when ego shows up, it doesn't let much light in, whether it's God or light or source or however you look at this collective energy that we all have available. Yeah,
Yep. That's beautiful. Wow. Thank you, Eric. This was the Modern Dad Council. Today we talked about goals or aspirations. And joining me was Eric Lehman of the Game Changer Movement. So, Eric, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come and chat with me, because this was pretty awesome. I really enjoyed just kind of starting very casually. I had kind of a format planned, but I wasn't feeling that. I was feeling more just live off the cuff.
Really? I mean, I think it would be good to just, share share what you thought it would look like, and then, kind of, just to be raw and transparent about it and say, like, what did you sense in the energy that made you shift in this direction?
Well, yeah. So at the beginning of the show, I was feeling a lot of anxiety for what I have this retreat, and this was I was sharing with Eric at the time, and I was like, you know what, I don't want to put this live because I want to talk about this on the air. And then I started the show, I kind of went into goals without sharing this, but so this week I leave tomorrow morning for a retreat. I don't know if it's a retreat necessarily, but it's an advanced professional development workshop, and it's 12 hours a day for 5 days. So it's pretty intense. And I went to the basic course a few weeks ago, and I came back with a very firm commitment to the things that I was going to do and how I was going to show up day to day. And that thing really, it took a lot of my core and showed it to me and said, me asking, why don't I have these things in my life that I want, or that I really strive for, and having to be brutally honest with myself and say, well, you don't have these things because of this, 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 and this. So what are you going to do about it? And it was like, holy crap! Now that I know that, I need to start stepping into those and destroying those blocks that hold me back. And that was like emotionally just, it was tough. It was a rough week for basic. And so I'm really nervous and anxious about this week.
because of how you're judging yourself on what you've already, committed to changing your life, or what's the...
No, it's just knowing how, it's taking a really deep look at yourself, and like a hardcore focused look at you, and saying, who are you? What are you doing with yourself? Who are you being? And who are you choosing to be?
Mm-hmm.
Is that like, who do you want to be and who are you choosing to be? Two totally different things. And so it's like I'm looking forward to this week because I know it's going to be like a breakdown of a lot of these blocks that I have.
Mm-hmm.
That I kind of was shown some of those at basic, and it was like, okay, there were some of those, like being committed to the show and making sure that I'm on time and we have this at a good, reasonable time, and I'm staying focused on my work and making those time shifts. Those were all things that I was dealing with then. But now I'm just nervous, like, what else is going to show up? What was something big and dark and deeper that I didn't quite reach the core of? And so knowing the first workshop, the basic, I've done personal growth. I've done things similar to this before, and with J40. But this particular one just, kind of caught me off guard and got me in a spot where I didn't think it was going to.
Mm-hmm.
If that, without sharing the whole thing, that might not make much sense. But at any rate, I wasn't expecting to get as much out of it as I did, and I was really excited about what I got from it. And now I'm kind of like, that was fun, but oh crap. What's next?
That's the thing about, like, even the earlier process you did with, like, this is hard, and then going to challenging, and then going into opportunity, and then going to gratitude. Like, oh my gosh, like, I am about to uncover, I'm going to get to know the me that I never knew, and so that I can show up more authentically as the person that I'm going to get to know for the first time, even though I've been him all along in some other, cosmic sense. So,
right.
it's kind of like, the whole Michelangelo thing with, the statue of David. It's just like, carving away at the rock until, the statue showed up. I mean, that's sounds a lot less anxiety provoking than like, oh my gosh, what am I going to find when I carve away this piece of the rock?
Right.
I get to know the new me, and the world will by result of that, and so like I'm grateful that you're going to that retreat, I'm excited to meet the new you, because I don't think that anything that's deep and dark, once exposed to the light, has the opportunity to remain. So and as one of your accountability partners, like I just, I honor that you're going through this process, and I feel like that's it's just really awesome. So I feel like and maybe maybe a lot more of our shared pathway gets revealed through these kinds of conversations, because the more you learn about how other people were able to help extract your essence, the more we can do in the world about helping other people find their essence. So I mean, I think that's where the energy is leading me to think. I'm just like, wow, like how cool.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, it is. Like I said, I'm excited about it, but it's like you can be excited about something and still have a ton of anxiety over it.
Sure.
And I'm like, I don't know. It's like you want to do it, but you don't. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Well,
know. But
I think I mean, just to like
it's
bring
stepping into the uncomfortable. Sorry.
right.
Yeah.
Well,
So
and
go
I
ahead.
think just even like goals versus aspirations. Like, I think sometimes short-term, strategic, measurable goals can distract you from seeing what is your like your deepest saboteur. You know what I mean? Like, oh well, I ran that marathon. I'm awesome. I'm good. Like, no, like like there were still days where I wasn't fully in my ritual. There were days where I ran instead of like, showing up as a dad. There were, there were trade-offs that I didn't nail, really well. I didn't make like the 100% best decision, all along the way. Yeah, I crossed the finish line of a 26.2-mile run. Didn't do it with an intact marriage, like I mean,
Right.
that was supposed, like, that was probably part of the outcome regardless, but you know what I mean? So like,
Oh,
there were
absolutely. I was
huge
Yeah, I was doing the Kick-Ass Dad podcast as my marriage was, as I'm going through the process of divorce.
Right.
It's like, but that is what drove me to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm not all these things she says I am,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to talk about that.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
But
I think that's where healing and perspective can come in, and your new aspiration about being a community builder.
Yeah.
Like so much of these things, when brought to light, are just like how much in this past hour has dissipated. Like the anxiety that you were speaking of in the beginning of this hour seems reduced, at least in the
Oh.
moment.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's
Hey,
cool.
I do have to have a hard stop because I have a meeting.
I hear you.
It's part
All
of
right.
my overcommitment, right?
Well, it's a perfect commitment. We're
Yeah.
committed from 1 to 2, and here it is too. So
Yep.
let's
So
let you
I
stick.
honor that commitment for my 2 o'clock. So thank you so much for joining me today, Eric, on the Modern Dad Council. And for you, those of you out there, if you like the show, if you have any thoughts or anything you want to say, go ahead and comment below. All right. See you next week.
All right.